I cannot multiply this business any further unless I give you X amount of tasks.
Yeah.
I either have to be okay staying in this exact spot, or I have to be okay at whoever I give the task to, and maybe screwing it up or not doing it as quick, as effective, as good, and then the business will grow. Those are the only two options.
Welcome to Courageous Stewards, the podcast where legacy meets leadership.
We believe stewardship isn't just about managing resources. It's about multiplying impact, honoring purpose, and building with eternity in mind. Each week, we dive into business-focused discussions on real estate investing on a foundation of faith and family.
We have a desire to inspire listeners with a heart to reclaim their time, talents, and treasures for something greater. Whether you're growing your portfolio, leading a business, or a family, we need to become the best version of ourselves.
This is your space to gain wisdom, walk in courage, and steward what matters most.
Let's build what lasts. Let's lead with love.
Let's become courageous stewards.
All right, welcome back to the Courageous Steward Podcast. We are here today with a special guest again. We've got Alex Hopson. Alex Hopson is a personal friend of mine. He's helped me in a lot of ways when I got my start. He's young, he's ambitious, he's driven. His parents have grown quite the portfolio, and Alex has been a huge, huge part of that. His drive to just go out and get deals and find them. They're involved in laundry, rentals, dry cleaning, insurance, and I mean the list is just going to keep growing. I know you guys are doing a lot. You serve on the praise and worship team, which is just a great thing to have, and have you here today with sharing that heart for God and being willing to serve. I know you stayed pretty close to me when I got my start because I had breakfast with your dad, who's kind of talked to me about how it worked. And then you came right alongside me when I started and told me it wasn't going to be that bad because I was pretty nervous about getting properties and tenants and all that.
Weren't they kind of the inspiration that sort of propelled you to make that first commitment?
Yeah, because Aaron had sat with me and just showed me how it worked and then told me I could do it. Like, there's just sometimes you just need somebody to tell you, you can do this.
Yeah.
So that was almost that like light bulb moment for you where you're like, oh, I get it.
Yep.
Like, I can do this. Right.
Yeah.
And then after you had done one and you and your wife were like, nothing's burning down. We can do this. It's the next level.
We went crazy. I called Alex, and because we were buying so fast, I think I went up 10 doors in no time. And I called Alex, and he's like, and this guy is the master of scaling. Like all they do is, I mean, you're well over 100 doors now.
Yes. Yep.
So you're the master of scaling. But I called him, and he's like, you might want to pump the brakes.
Just a little.
But it came from just having that little encouragement, because there's so many people out there that'll sit with you, hear your idea or maybe what you're thinking, and tell you all the reasons not to do it. That's not your dad. He's like, figure it out. You can do this. You've got what it takes. So it was great. And then having your help on the start made a big difference, because you're right. It wasn't that bad. But having you there on the start to just kind of coach me through some of that tenant interaction placement processes and things like that was very helpful. And then I remember we've had some interactions on some tenants even where I purchased properties from you guys. Yep. So we've done some fun handoffs, and it's so funny talking with you directly and your familiarity with that tenant and then the things I'm going through.
Yep. It's always exciting. It's always exciting being able to share some of the thoughts on, and interactions with passing properties off to you, and give kind of the insight of, hey, this is how I ran it, and this is how we interacted, and all of these examples. And it's kind of the slight difference, because everyone does things in different ways, and not right or wrong, but just even the differences and those interactions are always kind of funny to me. I always think it's interesting.
Yep. So. And how to handle it, because I know I had messages, and it's like there's a lot in here to dive through, and it's like I talked to you about it. You're like, you just got to go right here. This is your responsibility. This stuff is not your responsibility.
Yep, absolutely.
So just navigating that was great. And then I remember I was heading to Cleveland, and I had a duplex that I had bought, and one of the units had actually caught on fire. And I was like, I know exactly who to call. I'm going to call Alex. He's going to talk to me all the way through. He's going to tell me exactly what you do when you have a unit that catches on fire. Everybody was okay, which was great. I just needed help navigating, like, what do I do next? So I call you on my way to Cleveland, and I'm like, hey, man, I got a unit that caught on fire. What's my next step? And you're like, you got quiet on the other end. You're just like, I don't know. We've never had one. I'm like, you've got over 100 doors. And you've never had
Never once.
Never had
Never
a fire.
once.
And so I just remember like, okay, I got to call insurance and I'll start trying to figure this out one thing at a time. But yeah, I always think about that story because you were so helpful so long. And I was like, I'm going to call him. I felt good. I'm like, he's going to know exactly what to do. You're like, never had one.
No clue.
It was
Nope.
so funny. I'm like, oh, okay. Interesting. But
Hopefully that's the worst of your experiences for a long while.
I sure hope so. We had one at the renovation on the duplex we had a surprise
brutal.
on.
Yeah.
Just finding out that thing was cracked all the way down the wall from the upstairs was not fun. But
You have those little experiences, but generally you don't have the big ones. I know your family and I both have invested for a very long time. Neither one of us have had a fire in our units.
No.
We've had other things that have transpired or whatever, but yeah, you just don't see that very frequently. So hopefully, knock on wood, you won't see that kind of thing very frequently. We haven't, and you know, hopefully you don't.
It's pretty low. It was funny though because everything worked out good, and it shook us a little bit, but it didn't shake us enough.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, because anytime you start doing something that's aligning with God's vision for your life, adversity is going to come. I didn't see it coming that hard.
For
but
sure.
We knew something was coming.
I mean, on the bright side, you can't go. I mean, there's really nothing left for you to experience. I mean, you've already done it all on the front half, so now you're good. I mean, you know what to do if anything ever happens in the future. I mean, you've experienced everything.
We've had a
up
fire.
front.
We've had people just bail on the property completely. We've had people leave the property gross. Jake's even gone with me and helped me clear one out. It was just gross. Like everything. You ever had one that everything's sticky?
Oh yeah,
The TV stand,
a lot of
the
them.
chairs.
A lot of
I'm
them.
like,
Yeah.
why is
That's pretty common.
That happens all the time. That's almost every other turn. That it's just sticky.
How is everything sticky? But
Yeah.
No,
So I
it's-
want to get into Alex's story
Sure.
here and kind of how he got brought up and that sort of thing. So
yeah, so let's just take us back, Alex, on where all this came from and tell us a little bit about your story, your upbringing, and where you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So obviously you guys have known my parents, and they've been actually on the show a couple weeks ago. And we grew up normal family. I mean, my dad was a fireman, my mom was a teacher, so a very middle class upbringing. And I remember my dad, when I was probably 14 or 15 years old, he got into the rental bug. He was researching, really looking into it. He said, "Alex, I'm going to have 10 rentals by the time you graduate high school." And I was like, okay, sounds good. I don't know what that means. I'm 14 years old, but sounds good, man. I'm happy for you. That's great. And we were just kind of going on that journey. And through that period, he slowly purchased some rentals. We started with a triplex in 2018. It was actually a duplex, and we added an ADU onto it above a garage to make it a triplex. So started with that, and then bought a duplex on Perry that Sean now owns, and just kind of started property here and there. And he was working at the fire department at that time. My mom was in education, and just slowly acquiring. When I was 17 years old in 2020, there was this little known disease called COVID-19 that showed up. And at the same time, I had a lot of health challenges, so at this point I hadn't had a kidney transplant yet, but I started having symptoms, having issues, health challenges, and went on a lot of medication, which made me immunocompromised. So at that point, my doctor was like, "Hey, I was working in retail at the time, just, a high school job, nothing crazy, but I was working in retail." And he's like, you can't do this anymore. You're in the middle of COVID. If you get COVID at the start of this immunocompromised phase that you're at, you are going to get really sick. I'm not going to say you're going to die, but you're going to be in a really bad shape for an extended period of time. And I said, okay, sounds good. Dad, you've got 9 doors at this point. Can you give me $100 a month, pay for my gas and going out to dinner with a friend, once a month or something like that? Ended up, I blew so much money in that time. It ended up, I underestimated how much I actually needed to do all that stuff. But he said, sounds good. Yeah, and you're going to do, I was painting apartments. I was trashing out apartments when people moved out. I was making the phone calls for the maintenance requests. And I started in the nitty gritty at the bottom of just kind of the mundane tasks that are need to be done in property management. And I ended up just getting the bug for some reason. I don't know why. I loved the real estate game. And I just started researching. I got connected to people online, and I started doing all these different, levels of education and reaching out and speaking to people and getting mentors. And through that period, we just started around that time, 2020. I was 17 years old, and I told my dad, I said, we're not doing this to even a fraction of the capability that we could be doing. We could be doing so much more in this game. We just have to put a little bit of effort in. And sure enough, we did. I started putting together cold outreaching letters to sellers. I'm talking to people trying to buy deals, trying to get deals funded. We did a couple flips at the time with our construction company we owned around them, and we just were doing flips to build cash, and we'd go buy a property. And then we'd be able to work with our lender to buy a property with equity to not have any cash. I mean, we were just doing everything we could to add doors. And over that period, we went from 9 to 18 in the first year, 18 to 35, 35 to 55, and then 55 to where that next year we were about 100 and 110. Right now we are sitting at 150. We close next week on another 10, so we'll be at 150, 160 today. And slowed down a little bit because we added some other businesses that we're doing, but we're not stopping looking, and we're constantly adding and just growing, man. That's all. That's the story. So
they call that the stack.
Yes.
You guys are the epitome of what the stack means.
Yes.
Where you basically you start with 1, then you do 2, then you do 4, then you do 8, 16, 32, and so on and so forth, which is pretty much exactly what you did.
Exactly.
And it is an incredible way to build a portfolio.
Yeah.
You can grow exponentially very quickly just by doing that very thing.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times, you don't realize it when you're purchasing a property, but the equity ends up growing far quicker because you kind of force equity by raising rates and improving the property. By doing that, the property that you bought for $500,000 is now worth closer to $1 million. So you have that additional equity that you can then roll into a larger property. And if you just continue to do that, you grow very quickly.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not in this game very long, and I've had a couple. It's like almost surprising. I'm like, oh, I've already got equity in that one. I just bought that a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And you can use that to pull out, to buy something else. I'm hopefully going to be looking at doing that even later this year. That'll be my first time doing that. But
that's great.
Not having to come up with cash.
It's great.
Pull out a little equity. Here's the down payment. I'll take that one too. It's really awesome.
Yeah. We're doing that right now with the 10 units we close next week. There'll be zero cash out of pocket, realtor fees, closing costs, all the appraisals, everything, including the down payment, was wrapped into this. So we'll essentially be, for the down payment on the original portfolio was in the range of $75,000. So for $75,000, we'll have a portfolio value on that portfolio just over $1 million based on current appraisal value. So
crazy.
Real estate game, using that equity and being able to actually improve the property and do a good job operating well on that, it changes the game and allows you to get much more than someone who just buys a property, collects a couple $100 on rent, and then and calls it a day. If you're actually putting effort into that, then you can grow exponentially using those appreciation strategies for sure.
Right. So your health situation after 2020 got worse.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So in 2020, like I mentioned, I originally started having some symptoms related, basically mimicking like a regular bladder infection or kidney infection. Local hospitals said kind of, you're fine, here's some antibiotics. Ended up having just this kind of weird rash on my appendages, on my limbs, and it was super strange. They didn't know what it was, so I was sent to a specialist who said, hey, you have an autoimmune disorder. It's incredibly rare. I had medical students coming in constantly when I was up there just checking it out, poking and prodding, hey, I want to see what this is, because it was an incredibly rare disease. And I ended up being diagnosed with that, and it said, hey, your kidney filters are being damaged, and they are damaged already significantly, but they're continuously being damaged. They gave me some medications. I was hospitalized for several days on a very high steroid dose. Just a crazy period of time when I was first diagnosed. And at that point, I'm 16 or 17 years old. I mean, I'm in high school just trying to have fun with my friends. So it, in a moment kind of brings you back and grounds you to reality of, okay, this is very serious. The health challenges are very serious, and they remind you of what really matters in life. Yeah. So I was on that for several years, and 2 or 3 years later, it was in 2022, I woke up one random morning, was severely, very sick. Just everything you can imagine when you're very sick was happening. I was super swollen. take me to the ER. I can barely make it there. My parents had to drive me, and I go in. They sit me down. They run some blood work, and for an average man around our size, or at my age at the time, and even now, your blood work level, it's called the creatinine, it's your waste product, should be about a 1. That's just the value. Mine was about a 6.5, was my value. So 6.5 times that. They were like, well, your kidneys have failed. They're done. So we went up there. I had about 10% function remaining. They stuck me on dialysis at 19 years old, and I was on that for a year until I had a kidney transplant almost a year to the date from a friend of ours through church, and as a living donor, she had never even been in the hospital before, had never even had a checkup. Her first time being in the hospital was when she was getting wheeled in and had a needle stuck in her arm for the IV and was getting put under to have this major surgery. So we just feel that God blessed us and connected us in this way to be able for her to be a blessing to us, and for us to be able to receive that blessing and to be have my health restored. So it was a crazy process. I feel like the Lord blocked a lot of that from my mind even. We talk about this all the time, is from that year that I was on dialysis, there's bits and pieces that I remember, but a lot of it, I don't remember the details of it. But it was a crazy year. And I'm just glad that the Lord has, blessed me with my health. I'm coming up on 3 years this year, post-transplant, doing well, doing great, on couple medications for life, but would rather be doing that than dialysis.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I'm a lot better now.
Wow. So how long were you out of this game before you jumped back in and have now grown to this point?
Yeah, so I never stopped. So we closed on just about, we slowed down. So we were doubling, nonstop for those years. I got sick for that year, and we added only about 20 doors that year, and then we added a laundromat as well. So we still added things, but we weren't going as aggressive. It was just as things came in, if they fit, we would take them. We weren't going too crazy. And then as soon as we jumped back in, that was that next year. It would have been in 2024 when I was fully healed up. And then we added almost 70 units that year, just right in. And then I've been jumping in ever since. We're at now 2 laundromats. We have a dry cleaning that goes with that as well, dry cleaning business. We do some coaching and consulting on the side. And then we also are launching an insurance company in the next couple weeks. So on top of the rentals. So doing all those things in the past, year or two. So we've been, again, just kind of scaling exponentially since then. So
yeah,
crazy.
The Wellspring Legacy Group is your mom and dad's organization. Is that the right name?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
And they help to, I guess, steward. Maybe you can explain it better.
Yep. So they felt a desire to come alongside Christians and churches to help pour into them, and men, women, and marriages. So we also have some friends in Alabama who do a very similar thing, that we're all kind of partnering together to coach men, women, and marriages. Then we also are kind of feeling a call to do some retreats, intensives on very specific topics. So my parents are licensed, I think it's like Christian counselor or something along those lines, not therapist by any means, but it's like a Christian coach or counselor. So having intensives on very specific topics to help people overcome various struggles. So they felt this desire just through their leadership and their ministry experience to do that. And so I've been able to play a little bit of a piece with that, and kind of helping design some of the operations, the financial piece, getting us all in order, making sure that we're stewarding that well, because that to us while it is a business, it is a ministry as well. So we're trying to steward that well. But yes, that's what they're doing. So most of their focus is on that in this season. So
yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
What's the website that our podcast listeners can go to if they're interested in hooking up with your parents?
Yes. Yep. wellspringlegacygroup.com. There's a link on there that you can book I think it's a 30-minute discovery call, totally free. They will sit down based on whether you are a man or a woman or a married couple. They'll design who you sit down with, and they will get in touch with you and be able to help you out.
Awesome. Hopefully we can throw some business their way.
Yeah,
that'd be
incredible.
great.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So, okay, Sean, why don't you go on to the next question we have here for Alex?
So if we just dive back into basically what would an investor ask themselves before maybe acquiring that first business, that first property?
Yeah.
What kind of questions should they be asking?
Yeah, absolutely. The one that I think is the most important, and I think you and I kind of talked about this when you started, is knowing your why behind it. knowing why you want to get started. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's you need to have something to offset taxes. I mean, it doesn't matter, but it's important to know your why, because then that will drive every decision you make in the investment thesis. That'll help with your exit strategy. Are you buying this for generational wealth and to set your family up? Okay, well, then you're probably going to figure out how to continue growing at a steady rate without selling anything, without just, with just growing your portfolio. I think understanding your why motivates you to help you know your level of involvement and all these different things that are super important, but you can't do any of it without knowing the why behind it. For us, it was that generational wealth piece. It was that freedom piece. But that's not true for everyone that gets started. But I think if you don't know your why and you just see it on TikTok or you see it on Instagram or you see it on this awesome podcast that everyone should be listening to, and you say, hey, we want to invest in real estate because they're doing it, well, you can, and you'll probably do okay at it, but you're not going to be passionate about it. And with a lack of passion will lead to a lot of poor mistakes being made and poor decisions because you're just trying to pick up a property and do this and do that. It's about being wise, and I think your why fuels a lot of that.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer.
Now, what about on the commercial side? A lot of our listeners may have a duplex or a single family home or something, and then they're like, I feel like I've kind of mastered this game a little bit, and I want to jump into more of a commercial, which for our listeners, that's going to be anything 5 units or greater in the long-term rental space.
Yep.
You're talking commercial at that point. Are there any like clear-cut differences that you notice or things that maybe those small investors should consider and look at before they jump into the commercial game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will just say this from my this is purely my opinion. I think the commercial game is the best game to be in. I mean, we still have some duplexes and quads, and it's great because I think any real estate is good real estate as long as you're buying correctly. However, the commercial game, before you kind of decide what you want to do, a lot of the commercial assets, I think, are easier to manage. So if you're trying to be more hands-off and you're trying to just, generate a moderate to more aggressive return, I think commercial is great, but it takes a lot more work. So there is this aspect where you have some of it being kind of hands-off, and it's a little easier to manage because it's all in one location. It's 5 units, 8 units, 10 units, 12 units on one location, but you have the scale as well, if that makes sense. So I think, making that decision of what level of involvement you want to be at is going to be important, and kind of deciding again, if you want to have a scattered site portfolio and you want to buy a duplex when it comes up here and there, or a quadplex when it comes up, cool, that's great. You can start there. You're going to get some cash flow. You're going to have some benefits. But commercial is when you really start seeing, as we all know, the forced appreciation game, being able to evaluate based on cap rates, based on NOI, all these different terms that are a little bit more strategic terms and more investor like lingo that people use. I think that is what's, again, transformed the game for us, being able to jack these values very quickly. I think the commercial game is a lot easier for me personally to manage, being able to have that mindset. So,
at what point did you recognize that you didn't have to do everything yourself? And what I mean by that is, how many units did you guys feel you needed to get to before you could start handing off some of these pieces, or maybe hiring a part-timer or a full-timer? Like, where did you need to see your portfolio at? I think a lot of people are in that space where they're like, well, I'm going to need, 150 units before I'm going to be able to hire somebody.
Sure.
And I can't do all that work myself. I'm still a doctor or a lawyer or whatever,
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
For us, we made our first hire right around the 50 unit mark. Besides myself, we had a maintenance technician. I would honestly say that might've been a little early for us to not just contract stuff out. Only because kind of the risk versus reward. We had someone on site, but there was a lot of like downtime. So there's a lot that we were paying this individual and things that we were just trying to fill time that I think was wasted efficiency. So I would say somewhere in the 70 unit mark is probably it's just a little bit more than 50. You're in a little better spot. There's a little bit more to do. The industry standard, it tends to be about, one maintenance technician or someone that's doing the repairs, per every 100 units or so. I would say a little less than that's probably accurate. So I would say 70 unit mark is probably fair, but that's going to vary also based on where you're at. It's going to vary on the class of property. We do a lot of workforce housing in that CB class. So for us, we needed to have more staff per, a lower a lower count of unit, because it's more work. There's more things that are breaking. There's more things that are being done. But to tell you the truth, I still haven't reached a point personally where I have an easy time handing things off. I should hand more things off. We have a great team. We have a team across all of our companies of almost 17 employees. Everyone that works for us, I trust fully. I think is a great person, and they have great values and do a great job at everything that they do. But I still, as that leader and the person who started it, have a hard time saying, hey, so-and-so, here's this. I think you should do that. So the answer is always the earlier the better. I think, letting it go. But that 70 unit mark is when we made kind of a lot of good moves to hire people, more efficiently. But I struggle all the time delegating.
Handing off. Yeah.
I think that in the interim, when you're kind of trying to grow this portfolio, I would encourage folks who are, maybe in that process, really try to connect with some people around you that can help support you and don't necessarily need monetary value out of it. They believe in you, they're family members, maybe a parent. Like for me, my dad has been incredible because if there are things that aren't physically demanding, but just kind of tasks, menial tasks that can be done here, there, and everywhere, I can give him a list of things to do and say, Dad, can you take care of these? And he'll just run and take care of them.
Absolutely.
Because he cares about me, he cares about the vision of the business and so on. That's not always the case for everybody, and I understand that. Some people just don't have that support system around them, which can be a challenge. But I would encourage you to try to find some people who maybe are just in your corner for a season while you can kind of build this up to a point where you're like, you've been such a blessing to me. I no longer need it. I've got this salary that I can give somebody to kind of help me from this point forward.
Exactly. And we had several people along the way that helped in different aspects that were able to, kind of like what you mentioned, they got in our corner doing things at either a more affordable rate or willing to help out and do things here and there. I kind of, as you mentioned with your dad, I have a similar, relationship, thankfully, with my dad, where we were able to do a lot of tasks together. He worked another full-time job, though, was kind of the challenge we always faced was, hey, we have to do this turn, but you're working and doing all these things. So we contracted a lot out, but we have some great contractor friends who did a lot for us as we were getting to this point in our scale. And what we actually hired one of them who did a lot and worked for our construction company. He's our maintenance lead. He is incredibly talented. He is just loyal, got a great heart. I mean, we could not do what we do without our maintenance lead, Matt, who was phenomenal. And he was one of the people who believed in us from the beginning and went alongside and fell under my dad and was working for him in the construction business. And now is leading all of our maintenance and our turnovers and our team on that side here on our rental business. Full-time, he's salaried. He's great, man. So, I mean, people like that go with you for that journey. Some of them might even come along to be employees with you or full-time team members and help you out doing some things. But I think it's important, like you mentioned, to have people in your corner and build a team from the get-go. But they don't all have to be paid. Could be a mentor, could be people around, could be friends who have like-minded approaches to things. Those are important.
Of course.
Yeah, for sure. So talking about team and your building team, you guys are well into employees and things like that. How do you incentivize and retain some of these team members that are on the team now and while you're trying to build and grow and scale?
Yeah, we hire 100% of the time for character. We can train skill. There are obviously some things, I mean, like Matt, if he didn't know how to swing a hammer, probably maybe not the best to hire him for maintenance, right? Yeah. But generally, we hire for character and train for skill. So I think that is the number one thing, is if you have the right values, you have the right character. All of our people, or at least the majority of our people that we have in leadership positions or in high positions in our company, we have met through church. They have similar values. That's not a requirement to be at our company. Some don't, and they're still great. But a lot of them in those positions we've met. So we already knew from the get-go that you have similar values and we have a similar mindset. I think that's important. And then other team members who we didn't meet through that way, we've just been able to kind of prune teams over time and say, hey, you have great work ethic. You have great character. We love you as a person. We want to do life with you. From a business perspective, I mean, how much time do people spend at work? You spend a lot of time at work. So everyone in our team has to have the same culture. it's not negotiable. I mean, we have to be in the same place, in the same mind, the same vision, going in the same direction. If we're not doing that, then unfortunately they may not be a good fit. So that's how we build our teams. We start from the character and from the culture, and then we incentivize them, and we try and pay them as best as we can, as best as the business allows. I would rather, and my dad is the same way. Our leadership, we are always like, how can we pay our team members the most? How can I give them bonuses? How can I pay them when I can? Sometimes I can't always, depending on the state of the business, but when I can, I want to incentivize you. I want to give you bonuses. I want to pay for your lunch. I want to take you places. I want to incentivize you and pay you well, because at the end of the day, you can say our company's a family all you want, and that's true. And we have a very close company. Everyone is friends that we have in our business, but it is a job. It is a career. If you aren't paying well, incentivizing well, or giving a good culture and experience for your employees, they have no incentive to stay. So that's what we focus on 100% of the time, is making sure we pay them well, they have the right culture, the right character, and the right fit, and then we just combine all those factors into a great work environment. That's our goal.
Yeah,
so.
I 100% agree with that. Jake and I have talked about that before. You get somebody that comes to the table and they've like, oh, I can do all this. I've been doing this for a long time. And you're like, awesome. Mm-hmm. Some companies hire because their skill set looks strong. They come in, but they've got a bad attitude.
Yep.
They already know everything. You can't teach them to like, oh, we're going to do it this way. And they're not humble enough. Mm-hmm. And so now you've got somebody that has the skills on there with horrible character. That puts you in a tough spot, because your bottom line, your productivity might actually be there, but this person is toxic to the entire culture and team. And now you've got to figure out a way to, like, do we fire them? How does this look? How do we handle this going forward? Instead of just getting the right person character-wise first with some skills, knowing that you can train that individual. That's why I love intern programs.
Yes.
Get them on. Small paid internship. Have them on the team for a little while, because everybody can put on an act on that sit-down interview, right? But if you get them on the team and you get them around the people, then you can start really getting that 360 feedback from peers, other team members, the leadership. Like, this is a good fit. This person is genuine. This person is sincere. We need to get them on full time.
Absolutely.
And then transition them onto the team.
And the most expensive part of having a business is your people. It's the most expensive thing from a payroll perspective and from a hiring and firing perspective. It's expensive time-wise to train and retain talent. It just is. So from the get-go, if you know this person has good character and good culture and you are a good fit for the company, we can figure the rest out. I want to figure out how to retain you as a person. We have very high expectations in our business, and there's a lot of work that gets done to a certain standard. We have very high standards, and everyone that's currently working for us meets or exceeds those expectations by a ton, because that's kind of what we need to do. There isn't really any way around it. And I filter some of it, but my dad, he is very, he knows if he's doing X task, he can get it done very quickly or in this particular way, and I'm the same way. And we don't expect him to do it as perfect as us. That's not a fair expectation. No one will ever meet that. But if they can do it.
That's a great point. Like, because we talk about that a lot. I have a ton of things that I could already give to a family member, my sister, even my son, and just start handing these off. It's tough to balance.
Yes.
I do things my way, and to me, they're right.
Absolutely.
So giving that to somebody else and letting go of that control, like Jake trusts me a lot, which is surprising because I screw everything up. But like, how do you?
I just fix it after he.
There you go. That's the
I'm
way
like,
to
you
do
just
it.
start and then I'll fix it
Then
later.
we'll finish it later.
He always tells me I did it. He's like, you did great, buddy. Okay, I got that corrected.
Now it's fixed.
Look
Yeah.
how well it's working.
That's hilarious.
How do you balance that release of control to somebody else in those things that are so important to your business that most of us think we do so well?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is again, I'm just beating over and over again, is you have to have the right culture and character, because I know that even if you do the job that I give to you 70% as effective as I could do it, okay, I know you did it with integrity. You did it the best you possibly could. You gave it a full and true effort to do this task. So it comes from oh my gosh, like, you didn't do this right. You didn't do this my way. But it comes to, okay, you gave it your best shot using what you know and the experience that you have and your approach to it. So how do I coach this a little better? It goes from the perspective of we're just two people doing tasks and I want you to do this task, to I want to coach you to do it a little better. Or I want to coach you. Can we go from 70 to 75%?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking of it on an effectiveness scale. And again, I struggle with that too. Like I mentioned, of delegating. That's a skill that you just have to learn over time of being okay with being like, okay, I trust you. I know you're going to represent the business well. I cannot multiply this business any further unless I give you X amount of tasks.
Yeah.
I either have to be okay staying in this exact spot, or I have to be okay at whoever I give the task to, and maybe screwing it up or not doing it as quick, as effective, as good. And then the business will grow. Those are the only two options. So
That's a good perspective.
I would rather grow the business and maybe there'd be some growing pains and issues than stay where we're at and me do everything perfectly. Yeah. So that's kind of my mindset.
That's an interesting place that we can maybe transition to talking about scaling a little bit, and maybe some of the systems that you all have in place, or you've implemented softwares, some of the nitty gritty for like repairs or tenant screenings, rent collection, stuff like that. What value can we give our guests in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am of the belief that I don't like to cheap out on software. So I'm big on, we use Buildium. It's a property management software. That is our life for our property management business. That's just how everything goes through there. Tenants can submit their rent payments through there. They can submit maintenance requests. I can delegate those maintenance requests out to whoever I need to. And you can also put in general inquiries if anyone's like, hey, my water bill, I have a question, and I can delegate to whoever needs to. You can send out emails, lease renewals, sign leases, do applications and screening. So Buildium does absolutely everything for me. It's my lifeline. It's the second leading software for property management companies in the country. So it's expensive. It is. We paid, I just got the bill for it. It was like $3,500. And it's based on unit count.
Annually.
But it's annually.
Got
yes. $3,500 for the year. And that was for our unit count. But it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to help kind of stabilize that out. And we have very specific processes and criteria for applications that we've all learned over the time over the years of this. An ideal applicant fits this profile, so we do that in our process. Our turnovers have gotten down to we have several packages of how we do all of our turns. Better for worse, more or less. If I come in and it doesn't need a toilet seat, for just an example, but if it doesn't need a toilet seat, it's good to go. Well, that's part of X process, our package. We're doing it anyway. It just kind of is what it is to help standardize and do things. So those are some of the nitty gritty things that have helped. We just switched to, or we just added Monday board in as well, Monday.com, project management software. And that helps manage all of our turns and all of our back end operations as well.
Do those two integrate, or are they separate?
They don't directly integrate.
Okay.
You can through Zapier. That's like an integration thing, but we've kind of worked on it. But for now, we have our office manager who kind of oversees a lot of the. We have automations within Monday and some automations within Buildium. So for Buildium, it's $3,500 a year for our unit count, and we do the middle plan. So they have 3 plans. You have the cheapest plan, middle plan, and most expensive plan, and then that is per unit, and it's based on unit count. So I don't know precisely what they all are off the top of my head. That's just what we pay. But yeah, if you have 20, 30, 40 units, you probably don't need all of the features that Buildium has. It could help you, but it's probably not necessary. You could use something like Rent Ready or Door Loop or whatever that is.
Rent Ready. I've got 13 properties in Rent Ready, 17 doors, and it's $150 a year or something for Rent Ready. Yeah. And it does a lot of those basic functions. Frankly, if all it did was collected rent online,
that's it.
It would be worth it.
It streamlines a lot, but it also does a lot of the things that you talked about.
Yes.
Just
they can put in maintenance requests.
Yep.
My leases get
signed.
Yep.
Applications can go through there.
I love that.
Communication, accounting, it does a lot of those things, and it's a fraction of the price of Buildium.
Sure.
But I would still say if you're to a point where you need a more robust system, Buildium's a great one.
It has so many more options, and we probably use 40% of the full capability of Buildium.
Kidding.
Really, there's so much in there with automations, AI. There's different services in there that they provide that we don't use yet because we just don't need.
Yeah.
But as we scale, I just decided from the get-go I would rather be forward, have all of our residents and all of of our team members using a system that will scale with us,
Correct.
then having the potential, not saying that you have to, I don't know Rent Ready, but it might be great for scaling, but having the potential at 100, 120 units, having to switch from a Rent Ready or a door loop to Buildium, well, that's going to be a nightmare. We made the decision to start with the software that we plan on sticking on for the foreseeable future.
I think that's smart.
And going from there.
It's got the features, the build outs ready to go when you guys are, and you're already in it.
Exactly.
Because rolling over would be challenging.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have to roll, or did you start with Buildium?
We did everything manually up until
Okay.
Buildium. So we switched to probably 50 units, which I would anymore in 2026. Don't even wait that long. Do not wait that long to do it manually. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But around then we switched. So we were still doing checks and cash. We didn't have electronic payment. So it was like, that's how it was. And I tracked it in a spreadsheet on who paid and who was late and what paid
oh
what.
my gosh, yeah,
Nightmare.
I don't do that.
No.
No.
So that was part of the process with the storage up in the Toledo area.
Yep.
It was 70 people were already on this process, and it was just
They're dropping cash and check in a drop box, and then you have to figure it out. We were just talking about this at the gym the other day. I'm like, if they call you and say they dropped cash and we don't have it, what do we do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
We eat it. That's exactly
it.
what we do. And so we've got to get off of that system as fast as possible.
So we had to roll all these people that were used to just doing things that way, that paper way, into this online platform and collecting payments online and getting credit card numbers and being like using the word auto pay with somebody who's cash or check is like scares them. Yeah, blows their mind. I'm like, this isn't that hard. You're not going to lose anything. We're going to get you logged in here. But that's the whole transition thing is really difficult.
Absolutely.
That was our biggest headache, I think, with the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. It can be incredibly difficult. That's why we made that choice. Same thing with all of our systems we're doing now. We always decide, and it's hard to spend the money up front. It really is. But we always decide our systems, our hiring, whatever we do, every decision that we make is positioning now for growth. So I'm not in the soup with 100 more units and we're doing all these different things.
Yeah.
We got Monday board probably a little earlier than we needed it. But I'd rather have it now. All the automations are done. All of our boards that we use regularly are done. Everyone's trained on it. I'd rather do that now than have 30 employees and 300 doors and trying to coordinate that. It's just going to be a nightmare. So we always go ahead of the growth.
Keeping your priorities right, investing now
Yep.
on the build out and knowing that it's coming and being ready for it instead of being reactive. You're
Exactly.
you're being proactive with systems and processes and software, which is great.
I think that's interesting. I just had this kind of epiphany that from a business perspective, you're not just looking at value in real estate. When you get to a point where you're looking at the growth of a company, there's almost just as much value in the systems and the structure that you set up early on as there is in finding another 10 units or
Absolutely.
20 units or 40 units, whatever. If you have the right systems in place, there is so much value in that piece to this whole puzzle that you're trying to create and build.
Absolutely. And I told Sean when he bought his first property and we were kind of walking through that journey is you have to treat, it doesn't matter if you buy a single family home or a 100-unit apartment complex. It doesn't matter. Both of those are an individual business. So you have to run each property as a business. So, I mean, if you're making efficiencies, efficiency is value.
Oh, yeah.
That's a huge value is if you're paying a certain person X amount of dollars a year to do this task, but you can automate it. Well, that unfortunately is efficiency on the bottom line from a business perspective. If you can save 5% or you can fix 5% in efficiency, that's huge on a large P&L. So all of that proves value on a larger scale when you're actually building the business versus like you mentioned, it's just as much value finding deals here and there and finding value in the deal, but also refining the efficiency, making it run smoothly. That's a huge value add as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Good point. Good point. Talking about value, how are people going to identify hidden value in like a property or a deal that they're in front of? What are some things to look at that maybe somebody else might miss who's newer to this space?
Yeah, absolutely. When I always like to look when we get a property that we're interested in, we send an LOI out that shows, hey, we want to purchase this property pending X amount of things. And in those things, we get 3 things right off the bat. I like to see the rent roll and unit mix. I like to see a T12 for all of the expenses that they had in the last 12 months. And then I like to see kind of the lease agreement. I like to see what's in there. there's a lot of things looking at the lease agreement and the T12. They tell a story. They tell exactly how the property is truly performing versus what the traditional, property that you're underwriting. So I'm looking at a couple things. On the top, I want to see, what are they spending in maintenance? Where's it going? What's their payroll spend? What's their utility spend? Sometimes you can implement a ratio utility billing system, like a bill back. They call that like a RUBS system for some utility billing. That's something that could capture some efficiency. Plenty of properties still do cash only or checking cash only. Well, like you mentioned, you might be saying the expected lease value of this property is $100,000 a month. But if that's cash, what are you really collecting? So that T12 will say, hey, we're actually only collecting $95,000 a month. Well, that's $60,000 a year in captured rent that we can get just from switching to an auto pay or an electronic pay that's easily tracked. There's no dropping a couple bills here and there or forgetting a rent payment. Things like that are important. And then I'm looking at their vacancy. How long are things sitting? How quick are you able to turn these? And what is your true occupancy right now? Because if I'm going in and underwriting and knowing my team in this area, we can keep a 5% vacancy rate or better consistently. Then if it's anything more than that, I know right there, if it's a 6% on average, I have 1% in efficiency that I know my team can capture in this area. So things like that I'm looking at. All the numbers are telling a story, and I'm able to read them pretty efficiently and see, hey, this is exactly what we have to do. And every property is going to be different. Yeah. Every property is going to be different. There's some where you can go in and just add a management system and really make it efficient for the tenants, and then you can raise rents accordingly. There's others where you're going to have to go in and do some construction that if you just redo the parking lot and make it look a little better on the outside, it's going to feel more premium, and that's how you recapture those correct rates. So I'm looking at the stories mainly in the numbers, and that is how I'm able to kind of determine, okay, this is the value add plan that we're going to do for this property.
That's good.
Yeah. Wow. I was going to ask a question about internal metrics, but I think you just hit the nail on the head on that one.
Let's dive into what's a mistake maybe you've made in your career so far that you would reflect on and just want to share a profound lesson with like some of our listeners today.
Yeah.
Because you've done deal after deal.
We do quite a bit. I would definitely say, I've made plenty of mistakes. The majority of the mistakes that I look back on and say, hey, I wish I would have handled that differently, were generally situations with prioritizing our residents. I'd like to I wish that I would have back then been able to prioritize them a little bit better, because for two reasons: one, from a personal perspective, and two, from a business perspective. There's been instances where, man, I'm not paying attention to this thing, and it's ended up costing a tenant some money or some time, or it's offended them and they've moved out or they've gone past. And as a real estate investor, you guys know this, and real estate investors who are listening, there are some tenants who are just always going to complain. It just is what it is. But the majority of them are good tenants. And there's some scenarios where I think we could have retained a little better if I would have been a little bit more intentional. So I think it's important for aspiring investors or even current investors that yes, tenants are tenants, and there are going to be those challenges. Those are challenges. And I'm not saying that they're perfect by any means or that it's all perfect. However, the majority of your tenants are just people. They're just trying to make a good living, have a good home over their heads, have time with their friends and family, and keeping that perspective in mind that it's not all about the dollar bill will actually help you on your business side, because the number one driver of any sort of money in your pocket as an investor is your retention strategy. Yep. If you can maintain tenants and keep them there, then you're going to be in a great spot. So that's probably the mistakes that I would have made. There's numerous examples. I won't even get into all of them, but there's been plenty where I've been, oh my gosh, if I would have done X thing, and I don't beat myself up over it, but if I would have done X thing, I probably could have kept them. And they were pretty good tenants, and I wish I would have done that better or handled that conversation better. Okay. So I look at a lot of those and go, man, that helped shape going forward. And it just fuels me to help increasing the resident experience we have now.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's a great answer. I try to consider my tenants guests.
Yeah.
And, try to treat them as such. Like, it's not a hotel. But if you've got an issue and it's something I'm going to address, I'm going to do it the best I can in a timely manner and get it fixed.
Yes, exactly.
So I have heard some appreciation from some of the tenants in that regard, on timeliness. Now, that's a lot easier to do when you got a few doors versus your portfolio.
For sure. No, that's definitely a struggle now, is that that's our biggest struggle that we're working on right now, is tightening up. We have a great turnover process. Our turnovers go incredibly quick. I mean, we were able to do that, and that's a huge priority. My team's great at doing that. But our issue right now that we've got, especially with these storms, the storms have beat me up a lot. Past probably month or two, we've been having a lot of issues with in-place resident requests, like maintenance requests, just speed, just trying to get speed. So that's our biggest, like, we're not perfect. There's always problems going on. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, everything's great. We are doing well. But there's issues, and we're fixing things actively as we go.
So it really comes down to like prioritizing, right? You're like, okay, this is we got to get that to the top.
Exactly.
But I can fix that thing some other time. It's still working. It's still okay. It's not ideal.
Yep.
Yeah. It seems like a constant balancing act. And the larger you grow, the more of a balancing act it becomes. You have to be able to delegate things and recognize that your priority list and what's most important and maybe what's least important, and even pull from some of the least important things to push the more important things.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times that will retain a tenant. Something as simple as you're paying attention to my concern.
Yes.
And it is legitimate, will keep tenants there, maybe much longer.
Absolutely.
On the contrary, though, I believe that there's a balancing act between being friendly, respectful, consistent, but I'm not your friend.
Absolutely.
I'm your landlord, and we need to make sure we understand that there's a separation there. I will be kind to you. I will make you a priority, but we have standards, we have processes, and we have to follow those, and I can't deviate from that. I've had several conversations, just even recently, where I've had to say that very thing, like, I love you as a human being.
Yes.
I understand this concern. However, the system is the system. It's that way for a reason, and it's that way for everybody, and we can't deviate from that. So please understand that I'm not singling you out. However, we have to follow the process.
Absolutely. And that's a totally fair conversation to have. And that is where it comes back to, I think, setting those expectations is correct. You don't want to fall into the trap of being someone's friend on that perspective. You can be friendly, but not their friend. It just gets you in trouble, gets them in a bad spot. It gets everyone in a bad spot. But absolutely setting those standards and those boundaries of, hey, this is a business relationship at the end of the day. I can be friendly. I want to take care of you. I want you to be in a good environment, but it's a business relationship. And that's absolutely, I think, a great conversation to have.
Yeah. I've had to have some here recently because what I did was I got off my own process. I got off my own lease. It started being nice because I had a couple people that one was having health issues. So I had somebody go over and cut grass. And I was like, well, this person over here, I'll cut their grass. And then all of a sudden, you got 5 yards going. And you're paying for everybody's yards to get cut, to be nice, to be helpful. And it's like, wait a minute, that's costing quite a bit in the summer when the grass starts. So it's like, now I've had to have conversation with my tenants, like, the lease states this. I'm okay getting somebody over there to cut it, but I'm billing back for lawn care. Because it's the tenant's responsibility. It's in my lease. So we've had to have that. I care about you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm going to take care of the property and treat you good while you're with us. But that's your responsibility. So and just having that conversation is tough because you feel bad, but I'm just thanking for being understanding. And like, this is the process. So you can get in your own way by crossing that line, even in what seems like a small way, because it'll start to add up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to make sure you're setting that boundary, even though the fact that you do feel bad is a good sign, because there's plenty of people who do not feel bad from with that own property. They don't really care. They're just sticking people in and saying, hey, pay rent or leave. It doesn't really matter. Unfortunately, we've all interacted with people like that. And that's why, it is hard to have those conversations, but it's necessary. And the fact that you feel bad is a good sign that you have a heart and that you actually care about people.
I do.
True. What do you think your superpower is?
Oh, man, it's a great question. I think from a business perspective, my superpower is being able to see efficiencies and being just in love with systems and processes. I mean, we were talking about that a little bit of just, I love finding a way to make our business 1% better. And I'm able to do that and really just think that way and make it 1% better every day. We try to be. So that is, from a business perspective, probably my best power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yep.
I see that a lot in you, for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I enjoy that part of it. I'm still like very new, but I remember the deal I got out of town on a triplex where the owner it was all operations.
Mm-hmm.
He was sitting on a very profitable property, making nothing, wanting to be done with it. And it was all operations.
That's it.
And I had so much fun going, here's this thing. We got it. It's not great yet, but it's going to be. And so you run that pro forma. You project out what your strategies are. You put some changes in place. And then all of a sudden, when we got to the other side, it was like, it was really enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I just love it. I just see, hey, I can do this, and this, and we're going to run a little bit more efficiently, or we're going to have this property just be a little bit nicer, which is then going to drive a little nicer rent. It's a fair exchange of value because it's a nicer property and it's going to produce a little bit more income. So I love seeing those small efficiencies. We have a property right now that that we purchased that just had basically a block of buildings that had never been renovated, never rented out. And we're just working on doing those, and it'll bring 4 more units to market.
Nice.
One that's great for my bottom line, but also it's going to make the property run a little bit more efficiently. It's going to bring some more units to market that have never been to market. And it's going to help very tiny way, but help in that housing shortage. So things like that make me feel great. I'm good at it. And I like to see those things happen. So
Very cool.
One thing I wanted to mention before we go on to these next couple of questions to close things out is that you have brought up probably a dozen acronyms that I would say most people in general do not have any idea what you're talking about.
They have another episode.
And
I
so,
know, yeah.
and we've done this many times, and Sean will bring up an acronym, and so I stop and I'm like, okay, let's go back and we'll explain what that is. I don't think this is appropriate for this podcast, but I do think that maybe Sean and I can circle back and have a podcast that directly talks about some of those acronyms, what they mean, how they affect your business, and how you can use them in the grand scheme of things when you're talking about running numbers and or creating efficiencies and things like that. So we will probably circle back and do a podcast on that. But
Perfect.
What do you guys have going on right now that would be interesting to our listeners, whether it's a business that you have or multiple businesses? You're welcome to talk about anything that you think would be good.
We always have a million things going on.
Yeah.
But right now, what we're most excited about, 2 things that I'm most excited about. One, in the next couple of weeks, we are launching our insurance franchise here in Defiance. So we're excited to bring a Brightway insurance franchise here. We have a very talented lead agent. Our principal is very, very well known and talented. He brings 20 years of experience. He'll be awesome. We have another couple agents that are coming along that we're really happy about and really excited to see thrive. We're bringing a whole new level of service. We're bringing carriers and products that the majority of people have probably never heard of that are going to offer very competitive rates. And they have a very high percentage across this franchise company of paying out claims quickly and efficiently, which I think I'm excited about because I've heard too many horror stories of people having awful issues and fighting with their insurance companies to pay out claims.
Right.
That's part of, trying to verify the claim and making sure it's a valid claim. That's part of insurance. I get that. But my goal and hope through our franchise is that we can get affordable rates for consumers and that our customers are happy. If they have an issue, we're going to take care of them like that. And that we're able to provide good customer service to this area with a wide variety of products. So I'm extremely excited about that. That's launching in the next couple of weeks here in Defiance. We will have it. We'll be able to quote and bind policies here by the time this goes live, and Brightway Insurance, the Hopson family agency. So we're really excited about that. And then we're also excited about a lot of the coaching and consulting that we're doing right now. Yeah. We're coaching men, women, marriages. I'm bringing on a small group of a couple different people who are interested in real estate investing and business operations, and we're just doing a small group, a small cohort of people that we are mentoring in that as well. So I'm excited to lead that. My family's excited to continue coaching people and getting to pour into lives. Those are our big focuses right now. It's what we're really pushing forward to and just continuously growing and pushing in that direction. So stay tuned for both of those. I'm really excited.
Which we've already hit the Wellspring Legacy Group, which is what you just were referring to. And then the insurance side of things, how do people connect with that?
Yeah, so our website will go live by the time this podcast is out. You'll be able to find us. You can just search Brightway Insurance in your Safari or in your Google. You'll be able to find Brightway Insurance. It'll be the Hopson Family Agency. You can connect with us online, or if you're local to Defiance, if you're in this area in Northwest Ohio, we'll have an office in downtown Defiance that you can stop in. We'd love to get you a quote. We'd love to try and serve you the best way we can.
Okay, cool. Is there any other way that folks can connect with you specifically or your team that might be interested in some of the other things that you're doing? Maybe, the coaching or the real estate investing and that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love if anyone is interested in anything and wants to connect, either can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just Alex Hopson. You'll be able to find me on there, or shoot me an email directly. It's going to be alex@hopsonproperty.com. It'll probably be linked somewhere on the show, but you'll be able to find that. Shoot me an email. I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been a really good informational podcast. Not just that, but getting to know Alex a little bit and some of the operations that they have implemented in their business. Of course, they've grown to a significant number of doors that not everybody is necessarily going to be at right now, but it gives you some things to aspire to, kind of helps you grow and learn along the way. So we hope that this added some value to you. Thank you so much for being here with us. Go find us on all of our social medias. Courageous Stewards is the handle, and you can find us on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm so proud.
That's great. That's great.
So yeah, go check us out. Engage with us. We would love to connect you with Alex if necessary, or any of the other folks that we've had on the podcast. Sean and I are going to get back to doing some interactions, just he and I, on some of the podcasts in the future, as well as some guests that we're going to bring in and stuff too. We're trying to find a good balance for, not just having guests and not just being us, but kind of balancing both to bring some interest and as much value as we can to you guys. So check us out, and we look forward to coming to you next time with something fun and exciting and hopefully interesting for you. Awesome. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you. Thanks for joining us today on Courageous Stewards, where legacy meets leadership and faith fuels the journey.
If this episode stirred something in you, share it with someone who's ready to step boldly into their calling. Subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected as we continue to explore what it means to lead with conviction, serve with excellence, and build with eternity in mind.
So until next time, keep showing up, keep stewarding well, and remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's obedience in motion.